Hey, welcome back. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football, TITTH number 224. I am your host, Justin Bruni. I've got my co-hosts, Emran Khan and Stephen Homna with me this morning, this early afternoon. How are we doing, gentlemen? Happy Saturday.
Doing good. I had to pause a little bit because I'm still trying to take in what our Bears have done the last couple of days, so I'm not sure if I'm doing good, if I'm mad, sad, confused. I think it's all the above. How about you?
I was anxious, mostly scared coming into the draft, and predominantly for good reason, apparently, that we would muck it up, and here we are. Yeah, the reactions to the Bears draft haven't been too great. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. Same as you guys, kind of trying to figure out what that Bears draft was. I mean, there's so many positions of need that I get it. But wide receiver, it was there at 48, and we passed on it. So I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see come season start.
Yeah, not feeling too great about it. Willis Jones Jr. Wasn't the ideal pick. Getting a guy that's probably like fourth best on our depth chart.
And 40 years old.
It's a bit of an embellishment, but yeah, I feel you. He's older than the average rookie. What were you telling me? He's like a 6-year transfer or something from USC.
Yeah, 6-year transfer out of USC, went to Tennessee.
Yeah.
More punt returns.
He played with Juju. He played with Juju in 2016.
Holy smokes!
I'm not exaggerating. He did.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I certainly would have liked. I know Emron for sure wanted George Pickens there, but I wouldn't have hated Alec Pierce either. I don't know. They just really love drafting defense. We're not half bad at it. I'll give the Bears that. They can draft defense, but man, this team needs some juice on the offensive side of the ball. Emron, I know you got a lot to share here. You want to get a lot off your chest, so
yeah,
I want to give you the floor.
I appreciate it. Yeah, my thing really is it's that the players that they drafted, I don't think Gordon or Brisker were either a reach. I think they're fantastic players. They're going to help day one, and the Bears now have a amazing young secondary, right? Eddie Jackson, Brisker, Gordon, Jalen Johnson, Taekwon Young, who they signed. I really like their secondary. It was a huge weakness last year, so I get the emphasis, and I think Steve mentioned, there's so many holes. But, us three being lifelong Bears fans, this is the same old story, right? It's prioritizing the defense. And what I really think should have happened yesterday is the Gordon pick. I would have been okay with that. Corner, I think, is a massive need, just how much they were getting cooked last year. So you take Gordon, okay. And then at 48, you have to give Fields something. For example, at 48, if they take an alignment, I probably wouldn't have been too mad at it because, you could kind of go either way, right? It's what the Bengals had last year with Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase. Either way, I would have been okay, I get it. You can't pick both at that spot. But when they passed up, for me, example, George Pickens is my guy. He's 6'3", he's got good speed. He had an ACL injury, which he came back really fast from. A lot of people said he might have been the best receiver had he not been injured. And, to get that guy he had 2 cracks at him in the second round. And you pass him up, and, that's what you need. You need that big receiver. You need a talented receiver because not only is he going to make Fields better, he's going to make Mooney better, or even a guy you mentioned, Alec Pierce, who played at Cincinnati, but when he played against competition, he was able to get open. Desmond Ridder couldn't get him the ball against Alabama. It's a better competition, but he's a really good receiver, 6'3", good speed, but we don't do that. We get Brisker. Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that these are bad players. I think both are going to help immediately, and it was tremendous value, and Gordon was a guy a lot of people thought that would go in the first. But we have a young quarterback, and it's really frustrating when you see what the Jets did, right? They get Jameson Williams, right? They had Rondale Moore last year.
Detroit.
Right? I'm not Jameson Williams. I'm sorry. Garrett Wilson. They all went 3 in a row, and I got me tongue-tied for a second. And then they had Elijah Tucker last year that they drafted. They already had Mekhi Becton. They're trying to beef that up and give him everything to succeed. And the Jaguars, right now, we all know they overspent like shit in free agency, but their room is better.
Did they get their money's
worth? Yeah, their money. They didn't get their money's worth, but they improved. They added Brandon Sheriff to fix that line. Brought back Cam Robinson. So they're helping these young quarterbacks. And for Fields, we got the backups, the Packers' backup guard Patrick, who's going to be better than what we had, but that's not saying much. We got Pringle, who's okay, but we're not giving Fields that help. And I think we're going to be here in 2 years. Fields is a
These
bust.
aren't guys you can feature in your offense. They're nice guys to fill in a hole every now and again. Coming off the bench, reprieve some snaps, but they're not snap dominating players whatsoever.
They're
not your
not
anchors.
No, not at all. And I'm not. None of us, I think, are expecting the Bears to go to the Super Bowl this year. We know they're rebuilding. We know that. You still have to field a team to compete, though, right? Like, you don't want to be dog shit, right? Like, you have to have, you have to have something, right? And like, that's what I'm worried about. And like, I was patient in free agency. I was like, he didn't hand out bad contracts. He's rebuilding. Let's watch the draft. I was really expecting him to trade down in the draft, honestly, and rack up some picks. So everybody's like on Twitter, like Bears Twitter is a mess right now. Everybody's all over the place. Like, oh, we still have rounds 4 through 7.
It's an F.
First of all, exactly. Everybody, I was like, first of all, in the 4th round, you don't have a pick. 7th round, you don't have a pick. You have 2 in the 5th and in the 6th. And so unless he trades down, you're looking at 3 more players, and it is the top of the 5th. But like, I mean, I don't know if they're going to hop back into free agency and get some people. But like this roster still got to look a lot different come August. And now I'll step off my high horse.
No worries. You can stay up there as long as you like. It's no concern to us. You're just preaching to a couple of Bears fans, and realistically, I mean, we all feel the same way. Like, you're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best, and I feel like it's like this every draft season, every off season. Was a little excited, but I didn't expect like big signings or big money to be spent, like you had mentioned. I was hoping for a splash in this draft where, coming in, all that we could talk about is look at all of this wide receiver depth. Look at all of this wide receiver depth. 13 wide receivers win in the first 2 rounds. We brought home Willis Jones Jr. early in the 3rd. For all the reasons you guys mentioned why, he shouldn't have been touched. He's just as old as Juju is coming in as a rookie. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't seem like a good profile fit for our offense. And honestly, I don't know. I just see like another Daz Newsome. Like I don't see, with the tape that I watched of him, it's not like he like popped off the screen for me or anything. You know what I mean? Seems like a guy that could be used in some creative ways, but not necessarily someone that you can rely on for 7 to 8 targets a game. And I feel like that's what Justin Fields needs right now. Like he needed kind of like a Jameson Williams or like an Alec Pierce. Obviously, Williams much higher in draft stock, but you know what I mean? Like we needed like a big athletic player or somebody that could just eat up some targets. Didn't happen.
And there was a guy sitting there at 71 that would have fit everything you just asked for, David Bell. Like, it's exactly what they would have need. Had they drafted him yesterday, I think I'd be in a much better spot. Like, they got their guy. And, like, with Jones, I think he'll have some pop. But, like you mentioned, like, he's very fast. He ran a 4.3, right, which is great. But how many people did we have on the Bears last year that ran a 4.3 and Goodwin and Bird? And, I mean, the offense sucked. But, like, speed is good, but like we got a guy who's kind of a project even at 25 now, right? Like, is it going to be like, who he reminds me of? A light Cordell Patterson.
Yeah.
Before we were trying to figure out what to do with him, like he plays a little bit receiver, like he's got speed, he's a good returner, but it's just like I feel like at that pick, like I think we were talking before the show, if he was in the round 5, I would have felt a lot better. Like, okay, it's a project. That's what you do with these later rounds. And like the round 3, you really should have gotten a guy like David Bell, who would have been an instant plug and play guy on the offense, I think.
Well, there's 7 wide receivers taken in the 2nd round. So, I mean, any one of those guys, realistically, maybe Thornton I would have passed on. Maybe, I don't know how
Thornton,
you guys feel about.
Definitely would have passed on.
I had him as a 5th.
Wan'Dale Robinson.
I probably would have passed.
Okay.
In the
but everybody else, though, Michi, Skye Moore, Pickens, Christian Watson, who we'll talk about a little bit. I think he would have been a decent grab for us. I think he actually went ahead of our pick.
He did.
And then Alec Pierce. So those were really interesting guys to pass on. We'll get to that 2nd round group here in a little bit. Let's jump into the 1st round of wide receivers. We're talking landing spots. We're talking potential production and how we're valuing them in our rookie drafts coming up and our startup drafts. So let's start with like our top 3. Like the way I want you guys to consider this is if, let's say you have the first 3 picks in your draft and you have stud running backs. You don't need any running backs whatsoever. You're going to take 3 wide receivers. That's your plan. How would you prioritize your top 3? We'll start with you, Steven. Then we'll go down to Emron. Just tell us, how you're ranking these guys. Is it based on landing spot? Is it based on potential production? Something that you've seen from their skill set in college? Who are you liking here, Steve?
So my wide receiver 1 would be Garrett Wilson. Emron's touched on it, what the Jets have really put around Zach Wilson. I like their team as a whole. They added, multiple wide receivers. They're gonna look good with Elijah Moore and Wilson. Number 2, Probably go Treylon Burks right now. I like him landing with the Titans. Obviously, he's going to be an instant plug and play to replace A.J. Brown. So he takes my wide receiver 2. And then 3, this one's tough. I'm really split between Olave or Jameson Williams. I think Jameson Williams is probably my pick. Really? I think if he wouldn't have torn his ACL, he would have probably been the first wide receiver off the board. So they got a tremendous value there. And I think who do they got that's really going to be – I mean, they got Amon St. Brown, but I think Jameson Williams could easily just be the wide receiver 1 on that team. So those are my top 3.
Interesting. All right. What do you think about potential production for Wilson? Who do you think is going to have higher totals here? Is it going to be a good balance between him and Elijah Moore? Who do you think is going to be the better prospect after this upcoming season?
I would say Garrett Wilson. I think the way he's been able to create separation, his speed. I think Elijah Moore maybe a little bit more gadget type guy, running more of the underneath. And then I think Garrett Wilson's got a full route tree that he's going to be able to use and just abuse. So I'll go Wilson, brighter future.
All right, Emron, what do you got for your top 3?
I think my top 3, this is really tough. I think I'm going to go Olave number 1. Kind of looking at the offense, with the Saints, with Michael Thomas coming back this year, right? Now he's finally got a legitimate compliment to him, another Ohio State guy. Jameson can throw the ball downfield, and, everybody makes fun of him for his turnovers. But before he got injured last year, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's 5-1. So I think in that offense, I think he's going to help out. And with his speed, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think number 2, I'm going to go with Treylon Burks, and I'm looking at the offense that these people are going to, and he's going to have to step in for A.J. Brown, who he is essentially traded for, right? But he can kind of do a little bit of everything. He's a guy, just get him the ball, and you let him work. So I'm going to go with him number 2. And number 3, the only reason I don't have this player as number 1, he's my favorite receiver in the draft, is just because of the situation he's in, and that's Drake London. With the Falcons. I think he's a big-bodied guy. I think he had over 1,000 yards last year in just 8 games. He's a big-bodied guy. And it kind of him and Kyle Pitts, I think, are just going to be 2 monsters for the Falcons. My concern and the reason I have him at 3 is Marcus Mariota. And, I don't love the QB situation. But then again, at the same time, when you're a 6'5" wide receiver, if he just throws it near you, you'll probably catch it. And I think he might have a lot of red zone value early on because that team is just lacking weapons on offense overall, right? So I think he's got some opportunity to get some touchdowns for you. Jameson Williams, I will long term, if he wasn't coming off of an injury, I probably would have had him in the top 3. I think long term, I would probably have him in my top 3, but this year, he's probably not going to get on the field until maybe end of October, November-ish. So you're going to probably lose half the season of value, but he was another guy I was thinking that I might have in there.
Okay. Some similarities there, but I have London all the way up at the top. I actually don't hate the QB situation because they went out and drafted Desmond Ridder. I've been talking about, my Marcus Mariota side bet, how I got him as a week 1 starter. That's in trouble. Ridder could push him to start week 1 if Mariota isn't on his game. I think because they have invested in a younger quarterback that if you're in a rookie draft, I would still prioritize potentially London over Wilson because there's not as much competition for targets. Olamide Zaccheaus, Kyle Pitts is definitely a threat for sure, but they've got Cordell Patterson as their running back 1 here. The Jets still drafted Breece Hall. We're going to get to the running back conversation in a bit here, but you still have Breece Hall, now Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, who, could be a potential cut candidate. Let's not get, too ahead of ourselves there. He could be on the chopping block, given his cap scenario. But they also just re-signed Braxton Berrios. They gave him an extension after passing on Crowder, who they thought they were going to bring back. So I like London just a little bit more over Wilson just because there's not really that much competition for targets and potential production. And I feel like they'll look to use him, many spots on the field, similar to how they were very creative with Cordell Patterson. And they've got Arthur Smith in Atlanta. Arthur Smith is Mr. Quarterback Revival. This is the same guy that brought back Ryan Tannehill. So I feel like they're going to really set these guys up for success. I think London's going to be an exciting player this season. I'm going to go Wilson number 2 just because of the extremely high upside and just his playmaking ability. But that offense, I just feel like there's going to be some mouths to feed, and they may prioritize the run game even more so because they really do have some solid depth now at running back. Brees Hall, Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman still, who's not, he doesn't have fresh legs, but very good relationship with Robert Saleh and that system. Ty Johnson, who is a guy there as their RB4 that I still really like. So they're pretty deep. I feel like they are going to put the ball into the ground a bit, and then they're going to divvy up some of these, these deep field touches for sure. And then behind those two guys, that's when it gets a little bit more tough for me, but I like Burks. I think that spot in Tennessee with now A.J. Brown gone, with Julio Jones gone, you've just got Robert Trees there who's, he's going to be turning 30, I think, this season, or maybe 31. So I think that's a great opportunity for him. Nick Westbrook-Akine season is officially over, so that sucks for him. But, I think I go London, Wilson, and then Burks. Williams, you guys I think you both had him in your top three?
I did.
You had him at 4 or 3. You did not. I have him actually at 6. Not. I think it's still a really crowded room. You still have, like you guys mentioned, Amon-Ra, DJ Shark. They still have guys that they really like in Khalif Raymond and Quintez Cephas, Hawkinson as well.
Yeah.
And they really love to use both running backs in Swift and Williams.
So the knock on him is obviously, Jared Goff playing quarterback. It's not ideal. But I think the names that you're throwing out there, it's not a lot, but also they're probably not going into the season with all these guys or healthy. So it will thin out, and Cephas are really. I don't know if you're talking the guy who could have been the number 1 in the draft to Cephas. He's going to unseat him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with
potentially.
Steve.
Williams though is coming back from an ACL tear as well.
But he said he's going to be ready for training camp too. So I don't think he's going to miss.
Yeah, I thought Lonzo Ball was going to be back for the playoffs. All right, expectations.
Yeah. So what I was going to mention real quick was for Steve. I feel like DJ Chark is a guy I really like. He's young himself. I think he's only 24. He's younger than Felix Jones. But he's only on a 1-year contract, so he's kind of, I feel like, an insurance policy. I wonder if Detroit kind of had this in the back of their heads that maybe we go after, maybe we see if we can get James Williams depending on how he drops. But if we can't, DJ's a pretty good, a safety blanket, and so he may only be there for a year or so, which may work perfect. If they want to slow roll Jameson Williams, right? Because they're not competing for anything, right? They're more concerned about years, 2 to 11 of his career than year 1, right? So that's another thing. That's another reason why I thought if we were talking long term, Justin, I would have had him in my top 3 this year. Sure. I don't know, because there's really no incentive for the Lions to bring him back early.
No, I hear you. I hear you, especially with that DJ Shark on the 1-year contract. Let's get to the bottom 3 because I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Jahan Dotson. So we'll start with Steve again. Give me your bottom 3 to 6, or 4 to 6, excuse me.
Okay, 4 I got Olave, 5 I got London, 6 I got Dotson. London, my problem with him is I think they kind of taking Kyle Pitts at 4 last year as it's going to give you all this creativity in the offense. I think with London, another big body guy, it almost limits it. I just feel like that's not where the NFL is going currently. You look at what the Chiefs did with Kelsey at tight end. I think you kind of mirror that, and you get someone who could play outside a little smaller, faster, can really hit underneath. So that's why he's 4.
I guess I just don't understand where the Falcons' understanding of the Calvin Ridley situation came in, because if you had Calvin Ridley healthy on this roster right now, oh my goodness.
Definitely.
Ridley, London, Pitts.
I wonder if they take London though, if that's the case.
Yeah.
I think that they were going to prioritize receiver there. I don't know any other position that early that they were really going to be looking at. But I just feel like London, even if Calvin Ridley was there and healthy, I still think that London's the pick for them right there. It's not like you're going to go out and get a Garrett Wilson type of receiver has kind of a similar skill set or player profile to Calvin Ridley, right?
Yeah, they could have used an edge rusher possibly there. I don't know.
Tackle.
I think they still, could have went. But so then 4, I had London. 5, I had Olave. Good situation. I think Jameis Winston kind of just seems like a temporary quarterback there. I don't see him there long term. But Olave's just really good at running routes. I think Mike Thomas takes the number 1 corner. Jahan Dotson, it's not really a knock on him. It's just Carson Wentz. I would not want to roll into my rookie year with Carson Wentz and be in their shitty organization like the Commanders. But he'll be opposite of Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin's more than capable of teaching him plenty. He was a later draft pick. I thought the spot for where Jahan Dotson was drafted was a little rich. I thought he was going to go maybe early second even, or at least very late first. He ended up going in, I believe, the teens. So, yeah, I mean, really not a knock on him. I think he's a good wide receiver. Situation is just god-awful.
I hear you. I have him at number 5, so not far, but I just think Williams has a ton of competition there in Detroit. Who are your bottom 3 there, Imran?
Yeah, so I mentioned Jameson Williams. He's kind of like my 3A, where if it was long-term, I would have had him higher because he's going to miss a few games, and they're a little crowded right now. Also, I won't talk about him too much more. And then I'm going to go with, Garrett Wilson, and then Jahan Dotson. So Wilson, I think it just really depends on how Zach Wilson progresses in a year or two, right? They have a decent, they've done a decent job of surrounding him with talent. Wilson's got the speed, and Zach Wilson's got an arm. So, I think he should be in line, him and Moore. I think we'll make a really good tandem there in New York. And last, Jahan Dotson, I won't say too much about him. Similar to what Steve said, it's really, I like the player. Carson Wentz, I'm just kind of concerned about. And I think Washington panicked a little bit here when they saw that run going. I do feel like Dotson was probably going to go in the first, but I still feel like they probably could have traded down maybe 4 more spots, maybe taken him in the 20s. Agreed. I think that was a little bit rich because if you notice, after Watson, no other receiver went until Green Bay took Christian Watson early in the second. So I feel like they could have waited and gotten their guy. But, and him, I think if the quarterback situation changes and somebody else comes in, I would like to see what he does. But, I think he'll have opportunity because he's really, Curtis Samuel's kind of a gadget guy there, and Terry McLaurin doesn't really have a true number 2 behind him. So I would probably have
Curtis Samuel, not very healthy.
Yep.
Was Dotson your last guy?
He was my last guy.
Okay. So I had Olave, Dotson, and Williams. I like Olave a lot, but to me right now, this early in the season, like going into drafts, I'm a little bit concerned with how high he might go. Like I feel like he might be overdrafted because none of us are really going to know the health concerns of Mike Thomas, even Marquez Callaway, who is dealing with, I think, like a thumb injury or something like that. We don't know how thin that room's going to be. We don't necessarily know the Alvin Kamara situation. So I feel like there might be people that overdraft him or like overvalue him in rookie drafts and startups just because of that landing spot. But at the same time, it could also really go his way if they roll into a bunch of injuries, or Michael Thomas winds up not returning on time or something like that, or he comes back and just doesn't play a full year. Like if I gave you guys Mike Thomas over under 15 and a half games, I can almost guarantee I know you guys are going to take the under this year.
Oh, yeah.
Am I wrong in that?
Yep.
Exactly. So like, I don't know if everyone's expecting him to be, playing at 100%, but at the same time, he could come back and play like the first 7 games and ball out and just put up crazy numbers. And then Olave has a great second half. You know what I mean? So it's really a tough situation to predict. And that's kind of why I have him like right dab in the middle, because I feel like there is that upside to be literally the best landing spot and the best wide receiver of this first round group here. But at the same time, if the numbers don't really roll his way, if there's less snap availability, this is a team that's going to be running Taysom Hill at tight end. We're not going to know what to expect. You know what I mean? So I feel like he has that ability to hit the top of this tier, but at the same time, he could very well hit 5 or 6. Dotson, I actually don't hate the pairing with Carson Wentz. Dotson is a speedster. He creates separation in the secondary. And Carson Wentz, he's just going to chuck that ball up. So I got to imagine Dotson's got a few home runs dialed up in him this year. Another guy that I feel like has really good, like just straight line speed. So you can use him in like some sweeps and some reverses, some screens. It's also a really thin room, like you just mentioned. Curtis Samuel likes to get hurt a lot. You really just have Terry McLaurin ahead of him. Diami Brown is there. I think I like Jahan Dotson more than Diami Brown. What do you guys think about that? Right,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so yeah. I think there's some opportunity for him there. And then I just have Williams just at 6 because he's coming off the ACL. They have a really deep wide receiver room, and I still think that they're really going to try to establish the run game and really focus the offense around Swift because, in my opinion, he is still their best playmaker between the receivers and the running backs. You also have Hawkinson there. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Kind of starting off the winning and losers conversation here of this group, I have to say Jared Goff is a huge winner. We were talking about the complete disappointment in our Chicago Bears not supporting our young quarterback that we invested a first-round pick in last year, just kind of like reestablish the investments that you've made, right? Like we traded away picks to the Giants, our first-round pick this year, just to grab Fields. Why not build on that? The Detroit Lions have certainly made it a priority as well as the Jets and other clubs. So just a really thick room there for Williams, but I really love the opportunity for Goff as he's going to be stacked now with talent all around him. Losers in that situation, I got to say, Amon-Ra St. Brown, we were very high on him coming into this season. I think we got to, take it back a little bit, take it back a notch. Same thing with anyone that was really excited about DJ Shark. This is going to be a really stacked room, and I feel like one of these guys isn't going to boom on the box score until someone takes a hit. With Dotson, I'll say, Samuel was a loser, and with Olave, I'll say Taekwon Smith was a loser. What more winners or losers can you guys kind of add to that bunch?
Zacchaeus, probably a loser from Drake London. He was looking at it like a wide receiver 1 role there. Really,
he's either one.
Crazy. Because Russ Gage went down to Tampa.
Yeah. That's all I can. Imran, who you got?
So looking at these teams, let's see. The Jets, possibly Corey Davis. They gave him a big contract last year. They drafted Elijah Moore last year, who had some spark. They're taking Garrett Wilson this year, so he's kind of like writing's kind of on the wall. I don't know how much guaranteed money he has left, but I feel like that's someone to kind of keep in mind. And like you mentioned, Justin, they extended Braxton Berrios, so interesting to see what they do there. Olave, maybe Marquez Callaway a little bit. He was getting a lot of hype last year with the big body guy. He kind of floundered. And then the Lions, I think you guys covered that well. The Titans, their Titans room, it's going to be interesting.
My notes for winners, losers on the Titans was everyone wins. Like, I just feel like Burks really fits in really well there. It's going to take some reprieve off of Woods. I joke about Westbrook-Akine, but I feel like he can still kind of work into that bunch. It's just that there's not a lot of targets to go around. There's just not a lot of passing production to go around. And that's really, for the back end guys other than Burks and Woods, you're waiting on an injury. Hopefully not Rob Woods. No Bob Tree injuries. For the Jets, I had the wide receiver group, all losers realistically. Elijah Moore, people were very high on him coming into his sophomore season. Again, I think we need to kind of, take his potential level of production back a notch, just, kind of step off the gas a little bit on him. Same thing with Corey Davis, who I mentioned could be a potential cut candidate just based on the contract that they gave him last season. London, I had Zacchaeus. Mariota, I got to say, his stock is up. Like, he's got another healthy target. He's got Arthur Smith there to really dial up creative plays. I feel like he's going to be, probably a tier higher than what I would have had him, without a playmaker like this. But also, I think we were kind of expecting them to target somebody like London or Wilson. I think that's pretty much all I have. Let's move on to the trades that were made. Looking at the AJ and Marquise Brown trades, getting some fantasy winners and losers and some fantasy ripples from this. So we got AJ Brown now going to the Eagles. Do we believe that he's in a better situation than he was in Tennessee? Are we believing he's going to have higher or better production? We'll start with Steve.
Yeah, I think the opportunity to be there, maybe not as dominant of a run-heavy offense as the Titans were, but quarterback play is still going to be iffy there with Jalen Hurts. We've seen him. He's, he can use the legs a bit, and he has games where he looks great throwing the ball, but then there's other ones where you're like, oh man, that looked tough. So I like that. Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals. That one came out of nowhere. I was kind of shocked by that. I think it's good to take the top off for DeAndre Hopkins, and that's what Hollywood will do. Rondale Moore, that sucks for him. He's going to have to take a back seat. Maybe he'll probably be strictly kind of like a gadget guy for them.
What do you think, Emron? Winners, losers here in these two trades.
So I think winners are the Eagles as a team. This team is like really loaded. Even with them getting AJ Brown this year, they still have 2 first-round picks next year. And I think they're starting to build this roster to, I think, make a big play at a quarterback next offseason. Depending on how Jalen Hurts does this. If he's going into year 3, this regime, this coach didn't draft him, right? So they're going to have that loyalty to him. And he had a decent year 2, but he's got to get much better this year because with the weapons they're putting around that offense, right? AJ Brown, Devante Smith, Dallas Goedert, the running backs that they have, a decent offensive line. They're trying to compete for another Super Bowl. So they have, I think, the pieces in place. And if another quarterback becomes available next offseason, right, like maybe Kyler Murray, for example, maybe take those 2 first and Jalen Hurts and flip it for Kyler Murray. That's something that could totally see happening. Because you look around the league, there's always these disgruntled quarterbacks or these younger quarterbacks that want to get out, right? Watson, he obviously had his complications that delayed it, but he was able to get that trade. Wilson, a little bit older, but not that much older, right? Early 30s. He was able to get traded to Denver. We thought it was going to be last year, but I do think Kyler's going to end up getting traded. And I think Eagles are a team to keep in mind because they're loading up to kind of, take a shot at a run. And then for the Hollywood Brown trade, I think the winners, I don't know if this is just me. I think the winners are the Ravens by a mile. I think they absolutely fleeced the shit out of the Cardinals. Like I just for that. I was, when I saw the trade, it was, the Cardinals are getting, Hollywood Brown in a third, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, the Ravens getting a second. When it said a first, I was like, this makes no sense to me. I know he got his first 1,000-yard season this last year, but he's supposed to be a deep threat, and it took him 90 catches to get 1,000 yards. That's not the skill set he has, right? He's not a possession receiver. Mm-hmm. He's a big play guy. So you think him getting 1,000 yards would only happen in like 50, 60 catches. So he's played with Kyler in college, right? So they have that connection. So I don't know if they're trying to rekindle that, but I thought it was a really redundant move when you already have, Rondale Moore on the roster, right? Who I think is a little bit more explosive. If you wanted to get a receiver so bad, he could have just sat there and taken like a Christian Watson, who would have been a little bit scarier in that offense, in my opinion. A 6'4" guy who could run a 4.3 with, Rondale Moore and Kyler Murray and Hopkins. I just did not understand that trade at all for the Cardinals. Like, I just don't get it. And I think Hollywood Brown, is in the last year of his contract too. And so you're going to have to pay him. Like, it was a very puzzling trade. I just didn't get the Ravens. The Ravens do what the Ravens do, right? They traded back twice. What did they do? They got the best safety in the draft and the best center in the draft. It makes me so jealous that they do this every year. Every year.
I'm not a Ravens fan, but I am looking forward to going to some Ravens games and seeing some Kyle Hamilton. That's going to be legit. I'm definitely getting
really nice stadium. I went there for the Bears and Ravens about 4 or 5 years ago. Really great fans and a really nice stadium. Much better than FedEx.
I have enjoyed it in the one time that I've gone as well. I went to their playoff game against the Chargers. Joe Flacco's last game as a Raven. Sat in the season ticket holder section. It was absolutely lit. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. They didn't win the game. The Chargers won. That wasn't ideal, but I was also kind of low key enjoying watching Keenan Allen cut it up. It wasn't a bad thing. Wasn't a bad thing watching Keenan Allen do his thing. With these guys, I think, Hurts, obvious winner. I think Devante Smith is also a huge winner in this because he doesn't have to carry such a heavy load. He's not going to be shadowed as much or prioritized as often by opposing defenses. So I think this definitely boosts up his opportunity. Hurts is an extend the play type of passer, and I think that A.J. Brown's downfield skills, speed, and just cutting ability, like not just off the line, but down in an open field, are going to boost both of these guys. Like A.J. Brown is a potential top 5 wide receiver, in Tennessee, the way that they, had their offense prioritizing the run. I have to say he's got to be in top 3 conversation again going into this season. Marquis Brown, I'm with you guys. I didn't really get this trade. Rondale Moore stock down, Zach Ertz stock down. They also drafted Trey McBride, I believe, in the second round. So I felt like this team should have been kind of prioritizing to find like their next running back. I kind of thought that they could have been in like, the potential Breece Hall conversation or Kenny Walker, because you just have James Conner there. And while James Conner had a fantastic season last year, he's not the poster boy for clean build of health. You know what I mean? So like, I felt like they could have got some insurance there after losing Chase Edmonds. So I do not love the Marquise Brown trade. I think Marquise Brown's stock in general is down because he had such a huge target share in the offense for the Ravens this past season. Like you had said, 90 catches to get over 1,000 yards. He was getting a lot more targets than he was the previous season. And I feel like his target share is going to be much smaller unless you get like that DeAndre Hopkins injury. They also re-signed AJ Green. They gave him an extension. So you have him there as well. Rondale Moore stock down. What happened to the Moores? We were so excited about Elijah and Rondale this year. Values tinkering down. Let's jump over to the quarterbacks. We've got Kenny Pickett going to the Steelers. We've got Malik Willis going to the Tennessee Titans. Both, I think, are pretty good landing spots for both quarterbacks, both young talent here. Right now, I feel like Kenny Pickett seems like the guy that could win the job sooner, but that's not a home run. I look at Malik Willis as a guy that could actually get on the field as a rookie, as like some gadgetry, some design calls and things like that, but probably won't be taking a predominant quarterback snaps unless you see a significant injury to Ryan Tannehill. So, do you guys prioritize like that raw talent that needs to develop in Malik Willis, or are you prioritizing a Kenny Pickett who could potentially be a starter this season over competition like Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph? We'll start with Emron.
So one of the things I was wondering, this is definitely hindsight, but I feel like the Steelers did reach in the end for Kenny Pickett. So I don't know who else would have taken him in that round, right? I don't know if anybody trades up to get him. But I think this is tough because I feel like the way the offense is setting up for the Steelers is I think they're gonna have Mitch take that job for most of this year. I think barring like an injury, Mitch when he was a starter, he did get banged up a lot. He never played a full 16-game season, so I think he could get we could see Pickett on the field. But I would prefer to get Willis because I think that is a better environment for him with the young pieces they have with Burks, with Woods, with Henry. And Tannehill had a really down year last year, and I think they got really good value with Willis. And Willis, you have to remember, he has that ability with his legs too. Kenny Pickett is mobile, but Willis is freakishly good speed. So I think he adds that as well because if he gets on the field, right, even if he struggles, kind of like we saw with Jalen Hurts his rookie year, right? He struggled a little bit, and even Justin Fields in the few games he was able to play last year, right? Even if they struggle with the ball, they have that speed and the ability to get yards and touchdowns. They can get really sneaky fantasy production. So I think I would get Willis because I can wait on him because Pickett, I just, I'm still just not sure what the Steelers are doing, right? Because they haven't really announced a starter. Rudolph is still there, right? Like Mitch is there now. This contract's not that big. I think Mitch only has like $5 million guaranteed. Now Pickett's there. I'd probably go with Willis because I'll sit and wait. But in Pittsburgh's a little bit tricky to figure out right now. But I think Pickett might play this year because we haven't seen Mitch play the full 16 games. So I'll go with Willis.
It's good point. What do you think, Steve?
I'm going to go Pickett. I just think what they invested in him, I mean, at the 20th pick, that's pretty tough to not let him see the field. We know what Mitch Trubisky has offered in the past, so I'm kind of betting on that Mitch Trubisky hasn't changed from his time here in Chicago. Malik Willis, it's just a tougher road. They spend a later pick on him. I mean, there's no guarantee that he ever takes a snap for this team, let's say, I think the Titans would not be overly upset if Tannehill, went back to where he was in years prior, just because they're right there for a Super Bowl, where they were last year. We'll see now without AJ Brown. I just like Pickett. I like what he has around him. I don't think he's necessarily like a home run or anything, but you throw a rookie in with Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Freiermuth, Najee Harris, who was a stud last year. I'm going to take the upside there.
All right. So I'm going to tell you my pick after you guys answer me this. I have the 109 in a rookie draft. I need a quarterback. I have two starters. This is super flex. I've got Kyler Murray and I've got Aaron Rodgers, young guy, old guy. I've got no starting backup. I've got like Gardner Minshew, John Wolford, Nick Mullins, somebody else. Oh, Mason Rudolph. So 109. They're both there, Willis and Pickett. I need a guy for this year. Do you think I should go Pickett or should I wait on Willis? I already have my answer. I know what I'm going to do if they're both there. What would you
do? I'm still going to go Pickett. I think it's easier to unseat Mitch Trubisky than Ryan Tannehill from that job. If you need a starting level caliber right now.
So I am still going with Willis. I'm gonna wait and hold out. And I want to play through this season under the expectation that I probably won't get Willis, at least starting a bulk of the games. And I'm going to hope for, some injuries. that's the best I can do. It's still a super flex. I could start somebody else, but.
Yeah, I was going to mention, Justin, in your situation, Rodgers, even though he's up there in age, he's still got like 2-3 years left at least. So you're good. And so, but I think Willis, by that time, I think he'll start getting some play because, like I mentioned last year, Tannehill wasn't good, and why wasn't he good? Because Derrick Henry got hurt, so I think he was exposed a little bit because their play action game was hurt. But obviously, Julio Jones and AJ Brown were hurt too. But I just think like we had like a couple years where Tannehill had that spark where he was 10 elite, but I think it's kind of coming down to earth, and I think Willis might be able to play a little bit sooner than we all think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hoping for Tannehill injuries, but I am going to be hoping that he just develops more quickly because I feel like his skill set really offers or heightens the run game there. Like they're obviously a run-focused team, right? You go in and you add Treylon Burks and Malik Willis. Like in the back of my head, I'm like, wow.
Treylon Burks, Henry, and Willis, like a triple option. Ooh, that is deadly.
Dude,
like pick your poison. How do you want to die?
And then you still got Bob Trees for some jet sweeps. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good old fashioned Bobby Trees jet sweeps, you know? So I love what he can offer as far as like a reprieve in the running game to Derrick Henry, because this is a guy that it seems like, you know, drafting Malik Willis, they're again reinvesting in, because he won't have to take as many carries going forward when you have, I don't want to call Willis a rush first quarterback, but he's a guy that's going to be used in the running game a lot, given his athleticism and his talent to bring the ball forward. So I would be more excited about him. I like the idea of Kenny Pickett. Like I actually have Mason Rudolph on that one roster, so I would be kind of cornering their market a little bit, but it still just doesn't do enough to excite me.
Cut. Rudolph is going to be cut here in the next few weeks, I would assume, and
just set sail to never come back to the NFL, like to the Shadowland with Ben DiNucci. Join the golf tour with Tony Romo. I don't know.
Ben DiNucci.
That's my guy. Well, not my guy, but he's better than Mason Rudolph. But yeah, I'm still going to go with Malik Willis there. Just the raw talent and upside going forward. Interesting enough, it's also a league where I only get this rookie for 5 years as well. So I want to get cash in on it as best I can, because you can't just like re-sign them. They go into like an auction draft after their contract. So regular free agents that aren't rookies are 3 years, and then rookies are 5-year contracts. So like the guys that I drafted last year, I only have 2 years left on contract. All right, let's jump into the second round here. But before we do, be sure to smash the like button and follow us on youtube.com/Take It to the Hizzy. We're looking at second round wide receivers. We're going to be a little bit quicker with this portion of the show. Just, are these guys going to be an instant impact? Do you have interest in them in fantasy this season? It can be anything, whether it's, you know, startups, best ball, rookie drafts, whatever it is. We're just going to try to go in order here. First up, we've got Christian Watson to the Packers. I'm going to be honest, I kind of like this landing spot significantly more so than, say, Jahan Dotson or Jamison Williams. Like, I would probably put Watson as like my wide receiver 3 or 4 in this mix here.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, hard not to believe. I mean, they're so depleted at wide receivers. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. I think he's probably going to be instant impact for him.
My only concern with him, what I was going to say, is that he's making a pretty big jump in competition, right? He's going from D2 or D3, wherever North Dakota State is, up to NFL, and he has some issues with drops, and we know how Aaron Rodgers can get a little bit butthurt at small things. But I think on paper, this is on paper, it's a perfect fit, right? Big, fast receiver. They have a major hole right at that position right now. It's just Lazard, Amari Rodgers, and Randall Cobb. So I think he's going to have the opportunity now. I just want to see if he can run with it.
Right. I think also just the focus that they had on not drafting another receiver or, you know, offensive position in the first round at running back or receiver. I felt like they are really confident in that pick. So I guess I also lean to, you know, more confidence with them as well.
And they traded up for him.
Yeah, that helps. That helps. Well, yeah, probably. Aaron got on the phone and was like, "What are you doing again?
Yeah.
20 years.
He didn't have to wait that. What was he, the second pick of the second round?
Yeah, it was really early in the second round.
Basically
like
a first round
in
pick,
a couple more years, that's a first round pick. We'll have a team in London, Mexico. He's a first round pick in the next decade for sure. Next up, we have Alec Pierce. I'm going to say he's going to be an instant impact player for the Colts. I think he is a very, very good complement to Michael Pittman. He's a guy that I feel can line up anywhere in the field, and you can still let Michael Pittman do his thing as like an body receiver down the sidelines, cutting up the middle, whatever it is. I think that they're going to be a very good pair. Would have loved to see him in Chicago this season. Not going to be the case. What do you guys think about Alec Pierce?
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you mentioned, the Colts have been really dying at receiver. They have like Zach Pascal, who's all right, but he's not like, a legitimate number 2. I think he's with the Ravens now. Is Zach Pascal? I thought he re-signed.
I think he's with the Ravens.
Okay,
he is not with the Ravens, but I'll find out in a second. He's somewhere else.
Yeah,
somewhere
no
weird.
problem. But
maybe
I
he's
think
with the Texans.
Yeah, I'll take a quick look too because I'm curious. But I think he's going to have potential, and I think Matt Ryan's going to be better than what they had with Carson Wentz last year. Yeah. Matt Ryan's always been an accurate quarterback, so I think he'll get him the ball, and I think it's going to translate really well.
Really quick before we move on to the next one, does anyone want to take another stab at where Zach Pascal plays without looking? Who he
I
looked
for? I looked it up. I already hit enter.
Yeah, I already know too. But so yeah, it was the Eagles, Steve. We had like 4 answers.
It was one of the bird teams, right?
Yeah. Who he play for? I love it. Steve, what do you think about Alec Pierce? Instant
Yeah,
impact?
I didn't like where the Colts drafted him necessarily, but they're another
Mm-hmm.
team very depleted at wide receiver. Michael Pittman there. Yeah. So I think Alec Pierce, maybe a slow start to the year, but I think he'll be going by the end.
All right, next up we got Skye Moore for the Kansas City Chiefs. I am going to say that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to get involved early on. So I'm not going to say instant impact. I'm going to say like sit and wait impact. Like you still have guys like Mecole Hardman there. Kelsey's a big target. Molly, you still have Juju coming over. Like I feel like he's a very good talent. Like he's a smooth route runner, good hands, not going to drop the ball too much. It's really just going to depend on like, does him and Mahomes connect like right away? Like are they like hitting the ground running, right? And I'm just betting on that not being the case. So he's someone that like right now at least I lean towards like season long unders on props and stuff like that. Like I feel like he may have a little bit too much hype. What do you guys think? Instant impact or not?
Yeah, I think you're right. Skye Moore, it's tough with Mahomes. It probably just takes a little bit, but the chance is there that he does boom by the end of the year. Just probably there's still some bodies he's going to have to beat.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I feel like initially, maybe this year, and I don't know if it goes into next year, but I feel like it's going to be Kelsey and committee, where Kelsey's like your bona fide number one, which you could argue he's been that way for a while anyways. Then I think you got MVS and Juju and Skye Moore. They're just going to kind of be Josh Gordon is living off of 2013 like longer than anyone. And I just whenever they reinstate that guy, people like run to add it. I'm like, he had 1 year 10 years ago, and you guys are still thinking it's going to happen again. But I digress. But yeah, I think it's just going to be a committee. So I think he'll have his moments, but I don't think he'll be consistently week in, week out. Like I think I see him probably finishing around 40 to 60 catches, maybe like 500 to 700-ish yards. Like a decent year, but not somebody you're like, oh, that's a bona fide number one.
Right. Agreed. What do you think, Steve?
Skye Moore, yeah. I think it's just going to be tough to click with Mahomes.
All right, next up we got George Pickens going to the Steelers. This one's a little tougher for me because, like, great landing spot, wide receiver U, if you will, in the NFL. Like, everybody goes there, develops, becomes amazing, great, puts up numbers. They just don't have the staff at quarterback. Like, Ben Roethlisberger ain't walking through that door. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe that there's going to be the passing volume available downfield for George Pickens to have, like, an instant impact. I think he's a great prospect, but we really need to see and get more details on the quarterback situation. That's just keeping it as simple as I can. George Pickens isn't someone that I want to prioritize in the first round of my rookie drafts or over prioritize in startups, because there's going to be, it's a super deep group now. We've just added literally between the first two rounds, another 13 receivers into the pool. And a lot of these guys, people are going to, they're going to get their jollies off on. Like they're going to be really high on them. There's some of these other names that are, like, I'm just saying no for most of these. I'll be honest with you. I only have 2 yeses from the second round for an instant impact, right? So going forward, like, I just don't see these guys being it players, whether it's personnel, the landing spot, the situation, the competition. I think Pickens kind of fits a lot of that criteria, having a lot of competition, uncertainty at the quarterback position. Isn't he also coming off an injury as well?
Yeah. He had an ACL last year, but he was able to make it back to the playoffs into the season. Okay. So he recovered already. Yeah.
So he should be fine in that regard then. But I was talking about the wide receivers. I didn't even mention Najee Harris or Pat Freiermuth. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of competition over there. So I don't know. That's tough for me to say yes. What do you guys think?
So I'll say yes for Pickens, and the reason being is you mentioned Ben Roethlisberger is not walking through the door. Isn't that a good thing though? Ben last year throwing the ball. And I don't mean that like he was first Hall of Famer, but last year he's throwing the ball 50 times and he's averaging like 200 yards. Like, how are you averaging 4 yards a throw like a running back or something? Like, he was not the same guy. And I'm not saying Mitch is gonna be that guy, but the thing with these big receivers we're talking about, Drake London, is I think Pickens is 6'3". That catch radius is insane, man. And kind of like what Mitch did with Allen Robinson, I think that offense is like, that's another team that's like a quarterback away. Like, what if you had dropped like a Russell Wilson into that room? That's insane, right? You got Deontay, you got Chase Claypool and Pickens, and I think he's going to have some upside. And with the Pittsburgh Steelers, these rookie receivers, they have a lot of production usually year one. Like Chase Claypool had 11 total touchdowns. Deontay Johnson, I think, almost had 1,000 yards. Juju had a really big couple of years when he first started. So they haven't really given me a reason not to believe, right? So I'm gonna go with him. He will have an impact. I'll say he has over 5 touchdowns this year, maybe more, depending on if they have stability at the quarterback. Now, if they're going back and forth between Trubisky and Pickett, that's going to affect all their receivers. But I think he's going to make a big impact on that team.
All right, fair enough. What do you think, Steve? Sell it for us.
I think he'll have an impact. I think it's not going to be necessarily consistent with all the bodies that he has, taking targets and taking touches away from him. So consistency is something I worry about. I do agree with Justin maybe a little bit more that the Steelers are looking at him as more of a little bit like a project where it doesn't necessarily have to be instant for them to win at this pick. So I'm gonna go no here.
All right, next up we've got Taekwon Thornton to the Patriots. This is another no for me. It was kind of an interesting pick.
No.
I mean, a lot of gadgetry in what he can offer, right? Like a ton of speed. I think you look towards the creativity of their offense, and maybe he could be, something at some point, but not this year. I don't know. Not anyone that I have any high confidence in. Very fast. He has some athleticism to him, but I just don't see him as like a ball hawk, like a guy that's gonna grab a lot of catches or targets. And they also loaded up. They got Devante Parker this offseason. Didn't they get somebody else too? Who am I forgetting? I know they have Jacoby Myers, but I thought they added somebody else.
They got Aguilar last year. They had Kendrick Bourne last year. They added Johnny Smith last year. It was last year they went crazy and they added a lot.
Yeah, so it's like you say, it's also a pretty deep group, but they spent some high draft stock on this kid. I mean, they also spent high draft stock on Cole Strange. They probably could have got both of those guys prospectively around later than where they were drafted. But when Bill wants something, Bill gets it. All right. Like he's practically running his own college program over there. He's running the show. So I don't know. I don't like to bet against Bill, but I don't like this one. Thornton's not going to be someone I'm targeting in my drafts. It sounds like you guys both agree.
Yeah, easy pass for me.
All right, what about John Mechie III? Of all the yeses and nos, I wrote maybe next to his name.
That's kind of my answer too, because I like what he did at Alabama. I think he has a skill set, and there's opportunities to go lower in Houston. And a lot of people still don't talk about it. But Davis Mills was the second best rookie quarterback last year, and it wasn't really close. It wasn't really close. Like, as much as I love Fields and Lawrence, it wasn't really close. And you could argue, considering the situation, he might have been just as good as Mac Jones, but he was really solid last year and efficient. And Brandon Cooks, I don't know how he does it. He just keeps putting up 1,000-yard seasons. No one else around him to help. So I think John Mechie, I think he's going to have opportunity there because somebody's going to have to help out. And I think Mills will get him the ball. So I'd say yeah. I'll say yeah. He's got opportunity, so I'll say yeah. He'll make an impact. But I was maybe before we talked, but I think I talked myself into it.
Huh. What do you got?
I think maybe's perfect. I mean, he's coming off of a major injury, missed the second half of the season at Bama, but he's got an insane talent. He probably would have went much higher if that injury doesn't happen. Texans have no problem throwing rookies just straight into the fire and saying figure it out, and some of them tend to. I mean, Davis Mills wasn't terrible. I like Mechie here, so I think maybe he's perfect because we haven't seen him healthy yet. I'm gonna lean toward yes.
I think the passing volume is going to be there. While I think their defense is getting better, they're still going to be playing behind in games. The only thing that I have is I really like Nico Collins behind Brandon Cooks. I think Nico Collins is a definite offseason buy candidate for me, someone that you can get for not a very high cost. I think that they're going to pass the ball a lot because it's 4:30, not the time, but the date. It's almost noon. They still don't have another running back drafted. What the hell? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think that there would have been any issue whatsoever with bringing Breece Hall into the first round. Did they wind up taking that 15th pick? I literally fell asleep at pick 16, so I wasn't all there.
Yeah, they took. Who did they take? They took. I'm blanking on this. They took Stingley, and then
I think another defense.
Was it lineman? They took a lineman. No, they took offensive lineman. They took Kenyon Green, offensive lineman.
Oh yes, it is.
To stack up all that protection for sexy Rexy Burkhead and Marlon Mack.
Hey, Marlon Mack. I'm holding out hope for him. He was good when he was with the Colts.
Don't hate me, Marlon Mack, okay, man? Don't hate me, Marlon Mack. Like, Rex Burkhead and Marlon Mack. It's not 2011. Okay, like
Bro, I'm not defending Rex Burkhead at all.
Hey, if the Texans need a running back, if they want to throw a couple of threes or a 2 our way for David Montgomery, I'll make that trade. Like I just with running backs, I feel like you can kind of almost find them anywhere, like all these UDFAs and late round picks. But I am really curious to see how that team builds out with how Lovey does.
Names like Rex Burkhead and Braxton Berrios got me to a championship last year. It didn't win me a championship; it got me in second place. But
ungrateful. Man. You're just ungrateful. Then
no, I'm just saying, like
about Rex.
You
Burkhead.
cannot prioritize the future of your organization on the back of Rex Burkhead. Like, come on, like. Breece Hall, Kenny Walker, you're telling me you can't make one of those guys at 15? Yeah. Like,
There's
I don't
some
really
backs
hate
on the board.
I don't really hate the Breece Hall landing spot. We're going to talk about them here shortly. So we got one last one, and I think this one's going to be really quick. Wan'Dale Robinson.
Why'd they draft
What are the Giants doing?
Yeah, didn't see any need for that. No.
We wanted a 6th or 5th wide receiver. Like,
I just don't get what this team is doing because I feel like there's some similarities into his game and Kadarius Toney's game, right? Mm-hmm. And they drafted Toney in the first round last year. They're trying to trade him now, but you drafted a very similar player in the second round. You have Kenny Galladay, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Kadarius Toney, and now Wan'Dale Robinson. Like that's
somebody's got to get cut. Somebody's got to get cut.
What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like what are you doing? Like that's the team that has a lot more holes and like. You know, that's the shit that pisses me off. They have 4 wide receivers, and they're still taking them. The Bears have shit, and they won't take one.
This is another spot. Call me crazy, but why not take a dart on one of these running backs? They have Matt Breida and Gary Brightwell behind Saquon Barkley, who hasn't stayed healthy and hasn't been the same player since his rookie season.
Yeah, I just feel like they could have gone I mean, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of other positions they could have gone to because overall, like the first round, I thought they had a fantastic draft. They had a great draft. The best defensive line and maybe the best offensive lineman. Those are your first 2 picks. That's awesome. And like I just felt like they kind of were like, yeah, we'll just like now start doing some goofy shit.
I guess so. Yeah, I am a big no on Wan'Dale Robinson having an instant impact. No. I mean, I'm serious. Like you have to cut Kenny Galladay or Sterling Shepard. You have to let go of one of those contracts, and I don't think that Sterling Shepard's getting. I would too, but I don't think Sterling Shepard's getting cut. I could see Kenny Galladay potentially being a cut candidate if he doesn't.
I know they're shopping. Yeah, I know they're shopping Darius Slayton and Toney, but I mean, at this point,
they're not doing a very good job selling anything. Like all they're doing is complaining about Toney and putting just bad PR out there for him. Like that's not how you sell. Like, hey, I want to sell you X. It's terrible, by the way. Yeah. You don't really want to spend much on it. I'm sure I'll get a ton back in return on this offer. Yeah, they're doing a really bad job of it if they're trying to sell him. But Slayton would be another good sell opportunity. I would take Slayton on the Bears. He has some deep field threat. He has some speed to him. I mean, we were talking before. We'll take Laviska Shenault. We'll pretty much take anybody at any point here. Mm-hmm. All right, next up, we've got the running back landing spots, and then we're going to head out for the day. It's been a really good show so far, guys. We got Breece Hall, James Cook, Kenny Walker. How are you guys prioritizing these guys? Is Breece Hall your 101? And if not, who is it? Is it one of these running backs? Is it one of the receivers that we mentioned? We'll start with that.
Yeah. I mean, Breece Hall.
101.
Breece Hall's probably my 1-1. Depending on what my team looks like. I mean, if I'm not hurting for running backs, then maybe I don't run after him because I'm not like sold on it. But I think there's Wilson. There's just still a lot of question marks there, too.
So if you didn't take Hall 101, who would you take? If you didn't didn't need a running back, like you were saying,
probably Garrett Wilson.
Okay,
I just like what they did, but I mean Breece Hall, they've invested in that offensive line and really made them better in years prior with Becton. Who am I missing? They added one more,
Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yeah. I like what they've done there, so I probably like that. I don't think the Seahawks have done enough to help Kenneth Walker's situation there, and then he's also going to be fighting with Carson, I'd figure, for some time, for some carries.
Maybe
if Carson, isn't a cut candidate also.
James, apparently his career might be over. His whatever injury he has, they're saying it could potentially be career threatening.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that till this morning when I was like, well, what the hell is this all about?
Yeah, and then James Cook to the Bills. I love that. I think that's probably
Mhm.
one I'm willing to take a dart later on with a little bit more.
Mhm.
Just because I think at first it's probably going to be too much Moss, Singletary, and Cook. I think they're going to try to use
Right.
all three, and then I think Cook probably emerges as the best back out of that.
Right. What do you think, Emron? Do you go Brees Hall 101, or is there another running back or another wide receiver you take there?
I think you go Brees Hall 1. It's running backs, they're so few and far between, and I think he'll eventually take over that number 1 slot over the season. Which is kind of a bummer because I felt like last year Michael Carter, when he got a chance to play, I thought he's all right when they actually gave him the carries. And but I think Brees Hall, I think they also traded up to get him, I think, by a couple of picks, I believe. There was a lot of trades around too.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting him to be in a committee. He's going to eventually take over, I think. So I would probably go him 1. I was looking at these receivers as you guys were talking when Justin said, would you take another receiver and maybe instead of Brees Hall? And I would if I was good on running back, and the name might surprise you, but I'm just kind of looking at not who I think is the best player, but just the best fit. Might go Treylon Burks. And the reason being is, look at the quarterbacks. Would you rather have Tannehill or Wentz, Goff?
Yeah,
Wilson?
Maybe Olave. I'm not against Jameis Winston because I think he'll check it downfield. But Zach Wilson, are you sold on him? Mariota, are you sold on him? And then I think with Burks, he's sold.
I am.
Yeah, good for you, man. Good for you.
Got here.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I was kind of thinking is that I like London. I think he could be a red zone target. Wilson could be a deep threat. Same thing with Olave. But I feel like with Burks, a lot of people keep comparing him to Debo. And he may get the ball in unique ways, so you may get surprise jet sweep touchdowns, rushing touchdowns that you're not expecting. So I think that creativity really piques my interest. So if I didn't go Brees Hall, I might actually take him just because I think initially he's in a better position. He's got better quarterback play, but Olave would probably be my close third. And it's not because I think they're the best players. It's just you got to look at the fits, and I think that's probably what I do. In London, I really, really like Drake London, and I think he may almost be quarterback proof, where he just runs down 20 yards and just chuck it up to him.
And that's where I would go to. If I was 101 and I wasn't taking Brees, or let's just say I was 102, because there's really no scenario where I'm not taking Brees 101. I don't care if I've got Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris as my running backs. I'm still going Brees Hall. I'm not kidding you. I may take Brees Hall in the first round of just any draft, in the middle of the first round. I have one draft where it's a keeper league. I think I'm going to probably target him at number 6. I think that's the pick that I have, and I'm going to probably target him. There's a lot of running backs gone already, but obviously still some risk there in a non-startup type of league. But I go with London because, like I mentioned earlier, I really like Desmond Ridder still, and we're drafting for the future here with these guys, right? If you're in a redraft league, I mean, obviously it's really early for that conversation. Then sure, you can get him wherever. He's not going to be at a 101. But in your rookie drafts, for sure, I mean, that's where you have that investment. I like the direction that the Falcons are heading into next year already. Obviously this year we're missing Calvin Ridley. We've got Marcus Mariota there as a bridge quarterback, and I feel like that was a scenario that we had talked about in this offseason so far. Is Mariota will go somewhere. He'll be the bridge to the next guy, and this is exactly what we're seeing in Atlanta. So I feel like we're kind of on par so far for their narrative. Next year they'd get back Calvin Ridley. They'd have Ridley and Pitts and London and Ridder, as long as he's on that path, on that development path, and he's growing and he looks like he's going to be a big name there. Then I think it's a really good situation, and I wouldn't hate taking London. It's just that you may not get Justin Jefferson production in year one. You may not get over 1,400 receiving yards. If there was a guy on this list to do that, I would say it most likely would be Olave, because if you have a situation where Thomas doesn't come back or play a full season, Taekwon Smith isn't that guy. Marquez Callaway isn't that guy. I feel like Olave is a big opportunity for just target hogs, ball dominating, getting a lot of usage. And I feel like he would fit really well in an offense that is also just craving another electric playmaker. Kind of back to these guys here with Brees Hall, Walker, and Cook. I think the Brees Hall landing spot is very, very good. I don't think that Michael Carter is going to be significant competition. You guys already mentioned that they've rebuilt the offensive line. That's an investment for Wilson. That's an investment for Brees. And I just feel like Michael Carter is going to be a nice complement to Brees Hall. This past season, Elijah Mitchell led the league in rushing yards for rookies. I fully believe Breece Hall will go over his number, which I believe was just under 1,000 rushing yards. I think it was like 973 or something like that. He averaged about 100 yards a game total, all purpose, in just 11 games. Breece Hall will go over that. Like, Breece Hall has that potential to be a top 5 running back this upcoming season. Najee Harris was. I don't see why Breece Hall can't be, right? Kenny Walker and James Cook, on the other hand, I feel have more uphill battles. Specifically Kenny Walker, who I like, but I think that we should probably move James Cook ahead of Kenny Walker because James Cook is in a better system, a better team, and I feel that he's significantly better than Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. I don't know if I feel the same way about Walker over Carson if he comes back. Obviously, that's a super sensitive narrative to cover and kind of track like as we get closer to the season and through the offseason. But James Cook, I feel like, I mean, one of those guys gets hurt. There was games where they were healthy scratching Zach Moss last year. If that happens again, James Cook could be in a big line for a lot of work. And one of those guys could even get cut. They also signed Duke Johnson in the offseason. So really there's 4 guys there, and I feel like you could see either one of them get cut, kind of be in that healthy scratch territory. So I actually move James Cook ahead of Kenneth Walker at this point. How do you guys feel about those landing spots and, their potential threats, to get on the field or stay on the field for production?
So I like Buffalo's offense, and I think the running back is kind of what they've needed. Like Singletary and Moss have been okay. Like, they're not bad, right? But you can definitely do better. So I think there's an opportunity for Cook. Seattle, I think, is just kind of a mess, like you mentioned. Like, they have a lot of, a lot of people in the backfield right now. Like, Rashad Penny had a really solid end last year, helped me win a championship in our league. But, he's been around for a bit. He's had injury concerns. Do they trust him to repeat that success ever again? Or do they think they got lucky and they finally got their money's worth after having him for all these years? So I think I'd probably go with I think with Cook in Buffalo. And I feel like Buffalo's been looking for a running back for quite some time. There was rumors last year they would take Najee if he fell to them, or ETN, but they both went before last year. So I think with Cook, there's some upside, and I think he'll slowly start to carve out his role in the backfield. And then probably, I'd say, mid to late in the season, he'll probably just take over because I think that's what that team's missing. I think they want to have that identity where they're balanced and they can give you that threat, but they haven't really had it because Singletary and Moss honestly don't scare anyone.
They don't.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It's James Cook over Kenneth Walker. I'm also just playing on the Bills. They're going to be a lot better of a team than where the Seahawks are going to be, and I want a piece of that. They'll be in the red zone where I can't guarantee that a true lock-led offense is going to be in the red zone very often.
No, absolutely. They're going to be definitely more mistake-oriented. I don't know if there's any other moves that they can go out there and make it quarterback. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to land Jimmy. Maybe if they somehow Baker, but I don't think that makes them that much better still. Like, Baker does know how to get the ball to the running back. He's very proud of that. You'll hear him on the sideline saying, like, oh, I got shoved that handoff for 80-yard run. Like, it's weird how he brags about that on the sideline. It's kind of disturbing. But I don't think that makes them that much better. I think it's pretty even. But, yeah, Jimmy or Baker or, maybe like a guy like Minshew or, if somehow, Carolina moved on from Darnold, which doesn't seem likely. I know they brought in Matt Carroll in the draft. Bad situation. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think there'd be many upgrades to make that situation that much better for Kenny Walker. I think he just needs injuries, like we mentioned, either Carson to get cut or retire or whatever would happen with him. Rashad Penny to kind of revert to who he was before or take an injury, whatever it would be. I think James Cook has a clearer path to a starting role. May not be right away, but I think he has much more upside than Singletary and Moss. I think it's going to be his job more sooner than later. And I do think we're going to see a cut candidate there, like we mentioned. Like they got Zach Moss, got Duke Johnson, and Singletary behind Cook.
I was going to say I have a little bit of breaking news for us as Bears fans. There's a trade to report. The Bears have this is legit. It's nothing big, but the Bears traded their 2023 sixth-round pick that they had from the Chargers for 2 7ths this year.
Well.
So now they have 5 picks today.
Woo! You had me
not all at once, guys. Not all at once. I mean, I thought I'd say it. My phone buzzed. I saw Bears trade. I was like, no.
Could be interesting. All right, you guys got anything to share before we head out for the day? That was a good show. Are you guys betting on anything today?
Not on my end. I really haven't bet too much. I've done it here and there when I've been doing some errands in Virginia. I've done some live bets on NBA games, which I fucking love. You get crazy ass lines, and sometimes they're so good to be true. I can't wait till they legalize it in Maryland, but no, not much on our end.
Don't get me started, Emron. Don't get me started, Emron.
Oh, they got to do it. They have to do it before football season because in the fall you got World Cup too,
bro. So do you use Underdog at all, Emron?
My brother did. Price Picks are Underdog.
So you know what happened with
I'm
them?
aware. Yeah,
dude. I had like a second job for them at one point. Like the first month, I made like over $2,000 in profit. It declined a little bit after that.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, but one thing I never understand, I was like, how the fuck is this legal? This is gambling. This is bets. This is parlays.
What ended up happening?
They removed it from our state, like the over
mobile
under
betting. Yeah, it's mobile betting. And when my brother told me about this app, I was like, how the fuck is this legal? Like, this is basically you're doing parlays with prop bets. Like, this is gambling, and I'm shocked it took them this long.
I was loving it. One day I put my money on and I was making my picks and error. So I lost it. I wound up having to go back to Bet Online AG. This week I think I've lost a total of $6, but last week I put up over like $350 in profit. So you know how it goes. Went to the MoneyGram, got a nice little fat withdrawal yesterday. I was about to say deposit. So that was pretty cool. Today I'm taking overs in the USFL. Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
You've been big on the USFL?
It was like over 38.5 and then over 44.5. And I don't know. I looked at some numbers and I thought that was a good idea to do that. Also, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think it was like an over and an under, and both overs hit. So I was just like, well, let's just bet the over. Fuck it. And I got the Seattle Kraken on the plus money today. No basketball action until tomorrow. So, you got anything, Steve? You cooking it with anything?
Nope. I am taking the day off and then getting ready to go for the NBA tomorrow.
Right on. Should be some good stuff. Be sure to check us out on Twitter. You can find me at TITTHJB. Emron, let them know where they can find you.
Icon 21. You see it in the name.
Yeah,
how about
find
you,
me at Stephen Hammond. Catch me on Twitter.
All right. Take care. Be well. Be good. If you can't be good at it. We'll see you.